Placing her on a table, he showed her to the sick king and renewed his vow to help her find her way home. Matilda nodded, her trust in the prince unshaken. Turning toward the king, she channeled her energy, releasing a radiant light that enveloped his frail body.
My day, growing frustrated, shouted, "Cry, creature, cry." But Matilda did not shed a tear. Mermaids, after all, do not cry from physical pain. Once upon a time, in the distant village of Odo, nestled by the crystal blue river that bore its name, there existed beings of untold beauty and mystery. Beneath the tranquil waters, mermaids thrived in a hidden kingdom of wonder unknown to the villagers. Every fortnight, these creatures ascended to the river's surface to bask in the cool evening breeze, their radiant scales shimmering like moonlight on the rippling waves. While the mermaids lived joyfully, the village of Odo above was a land cloaked in sorrow. The beloved queen of the village lay gravely ill, her life slipping away with each passing day. King Mackerel, consumed by despair, had summoned every healer, every medicine man, but all remedies had failed. The verdict was crushing. The queen had but 7 days to live. One somber evening, unable to bear the weight of his sorrow, the king paddled alone into the river's expanse. The oars sliced through the silent waters as his thoughts spiraled into the abyss of loss. Then a sudden ripple disturbed the stillness in the waters. "Who's there?" the king called, his voice trembling. "Show yourself!" The waters parted and a figure emerged, a creature unlike anything he had ever imagined. A merman, his features both alien and majestic, rose from the depths. His eyes gleamed with wisdom, his presence imbued with otherworldly grace. The merman smiled softly. "Why do you grieve so deeply, O king? I came to feel the evening breeze, but your sorrow caught my attention. No man is meant to see me, yet here I stand. Speak your pain." In awe, the king recounted his plight, the dying queen, his helplessness, his desperation. With each word, the merman's expression grew somber. "You are brave to share such sorrow with one you do not know," he said finally. "Your heart seeks no power, no wealth, only the love of your wife. For this, I will help you." The merman explained the pact. "Return tomorrow, alone, with an empty bottle. I will send my wife, the Queen Mother, to heal your beloved. But hear this well, once her work is done, you must bring her back to this very spot. Tell no one of this encounter, or the bond between us will break." Hope rekindled in the king's heart. He left the river that night, resolved to honor the strange and miraculous bargain. True to his word, the merman summoned his wife, entrusting her with the task. She agreed, though it meant leaving her newborn child in her husband's care. The next evening, King Mackerel returned with the bottle. The Queen Mother rose from the water, her radiance filling the day. "I am the one you seek," she said, her voice as soft as the river's song. With a gesture, she transformed herself and flowed into the bottle. Back at the palace, the king placed the bottle near his ailing wife. The mermaid began chanting a spell, her voice soft, weaving ancient magic into the night. By morning, the queen's health was restored, her eyes open, her smile radiant. The village erupted in celebration. Their queen had been miraculously healed. But whispers of the mermaid's power spread like wildfire. Against the merman's warning, the king could not keep the secret. As the rumors of the mermaid spread across the village, Chief Bello, the king's most trusted advisor, seized the opportunity. Known for his vast knowledge, but also his cunningness and greed, he rushed down to the palace, urging the king to exploit the mermaid further. "Her tears can be turned to gold," Chief Bello whispered, his eyes glinting with avarice. "Think of the riches she could bring to our kingdom." At first, the king hesitated, but the promise of wealth was intoxicating. His gratitude to the merman gave way to ambition, and his heart was corrupted. He walked into the chamber where the Queen Mother lay asleep and grabbed the bottle. He ordered the guards to torture the Queen Mother until she cried. The palace guards began casting their sharp spears into her skin. The The Queen Mother had been betrayed by the humans whom her husband had trusted. Her tears fell freely, not because of the spears that tore at her luminous form, but because of the child she left behind and the betrayal from these humans whom her husband, the king, had chosen to trust. In the form of blood, her tears fell. With her dying breath, the Queen Mother cursed the king and his land. "Your kingdom shall be divided, brother against brother, and the earth shall bear no fruit. You have betrayed the sacred trust of the waters." Her voice faltered, and she faded into silence. But the chief dismissed her words. He was elated to have gotten the tears from the mermaid. Immediately he began to chant an ancient spell. King Mackerel watched with intensity, his eyes beaming with desperation. He could not afford not to get the gold after making such a big sacrifice. And just like the chief had promised, the mermaid's tears turned to gold and precious stones. The king was in shock. It was true. He had become rich overnight. He shared the gold amongst himself, Chief Bello, and his closest allies. That very evening, as the Mer-King swam to the spot where he had met the human to retrieve his beloved wife, he was met with a sharp pang of disappointment. The human king never showed up. Each evening, the Mer-King returned to the same spot, hoping the human would keep his promise, but no one came. His wife was gone, and the human had vanished. A promise had been broken, and an act of kindness was repaid with treachery. The Mer-King's heart was heavy with anguish. Could his wife have chosen to abandon him and their infant daughter for the human world? The pain of betrayal seared his soul, teaching him a harsh lesson: never trust a human. While King Mackerel basked in his newfound wealth, his wife's extended life, and her restored health, the Mer-King was left with nothing but heartbreak and regret. He had sacrificed the most precious thing he had to save another, only to be deceived. In his sorrow and fury, the Mer-King summoned his subjects, the creatures of the rivers and seas, and proclaimed a powerful decree. From this day forth, humans and the waterfolk shall be enemies. None shall aid or interact with them again. He banned mermaids from ever surfacing to enjoy the evening breeze, sealing their world away from the land above. Thus, enmity between humans and the mermaids began. Alone in his grief, the Mer-King resolved to protect his newborn Matilda at all costs. Little did he know, the queen had perished, and her curse had entwined the fates of the waterfolk and the humans, and destiny waited patiently to unfold its wings. As years passed, Matilda blossomed into the most beautiful princess in the waters. Her blazing spirit and curious mind endeared her to all, especially her father. Yet she often questioned him about her mother's absence. "Why hasn't she returned?" Matilda would ask. "The humans deceived me and took her away," the Mer-King would reply. "The creatures that dwell on the land are monsters, with huge horns hiding behind their heads and fangs hidden beneath their teeth. They are very dangerous. Never swim to the shore, Matilda. Avoid them at all costs." Though Matilda revered her father and obeyed his commands, a deep yearning for answers burned within her heart. Who were these humans, and why had her mother not returned? Meanwhile, on land, as the years passed, the kingdom of Odo faltered under the weight of the curse. The farmlands lay barren, and the earth withheld its bounty. King Jerry, the new king, had been blessed with twin sons, Ola and Mide, whom he raised alone after his wife's death during childbirth. Though the palace thrived on taxes from the struggling villagers, the kingdom remained impoverished. Ola and Mide grew into sophisticated men of medicine, but their hearts differed. Ola, kind and dutiful, sought tirelessly to cure his ailing father, King Jerry, who had now been bedridden for years. Mide, however, cared only for power. Secretly, he wished for his father's death so he could claim the throne, after getting rid of his ever-so-perfect brother, of course. The royal chiefs, tasked with crowning the next king, were torn between the twins. To resolve the matter, they decreed that whichever prince found a cure for King Jerry would inherit the throne. The challenge spurred both brothers into action. Mide, desperate to win and find the cure, buried himself in the royal library, poring over ancient scrolls. One day, he stumbled upon a hidden scroll that told of the history of his kingdom and the last encounter with the mermaids. Mayday read of their healing powers and the immense wealth they had once bestowed upon the kingdom. Ignoring the warnings about the curses and the hostility between waterfolk and humans, Mayday resolved to capture a mermaid. Each fortnight, he ventured to the riverbank, waiting in vain for a mermaid to appear. Meanwhile, in the deep, unbeknownst to the Mer King, some young mermaids had begun sneaking to the surface to play and feel the evening breeze. One day, they invited Matilda to join them. Overcome with excitement, she agreed, embarking on her first journey to the surface. Together they played and relaxed under the soothing light of the evening sun. But as the sun set and darkness fell, the mermaids called on each other and hurried back to the deep. But Matilda's fin became tangled in a thorny bush. She called for help, but her companions did not hear her cries and left without her. Fear gripped Matilda as she freed herself, only to realize she was alone and lost. She hid behind a wooden bridge, hoping no one would see her.
That same evening, Prince Ola ventured deep into the river, searching for a rare aquatic plant rumored to cure his father's illness. As he paddled deep into the rivers alone, he spotted Matilda. Startled, she tried to flee, but Ola called out, "Wait, please don't go. I mean you no harm." Though wary, Matilda paused, curious about the human. He was unlike the frightening creatures with horns and fangs her father had warned her about. Yet she couldn't ignore the fear that lodged in her heart. The same humans who had taken her mother now stood before her. "What may I do for you?" Matilda asked the prince, her voice trembling with fear. Prince Ola explained why he had come to the river, to search for a rare plant that could cure his ailing father, the king. But instead, he had stumbled upon the most beautiful creature he had ever seen. On hearing his words, Matilda felt a strange sting in her heart. Her pulse quickened and a blush crept across her cheeks. She did not understand the sudden rush of emotions. She had never felt this way before. Gathering her composure, Matilda spoke again to the enigmatic figure before her, who had made her heart race with just his words. "You seem troubled. What is it you seek, and why do you need this special plant?" she asked softly. "What is your name?" Prince Ola inquired instead. "Matilda. I am the princess of the waters," she replied. "Matilda." The prince whispered her name, his eyes alight with awe and hidden joy. He went on to recount his quest to find a cure for his sick father, the king, and why he so desperately needed to find the special plant. Matilda, moved by the purity of his heart, told him that she possessed the power to heal any ailment. But she, too, was lost, desperate to find her way back to her underwater kingdom. "If you help me save my father," Ola promised, "I will help you return to your home." Unaware of the conflict between their two realms, Matilda believed in the sincerity she saw in the prince and agreed to help him. Just like her mother had done long ago, Matilda transformed and entered Prince Ola's small bottle, making a sacred promise to him. The prince watched in astonishment as she seamlessly changed form and floated inside. With the cure in his possession, Ola hurried back to the palace. Meanwhile, in the depths of the sea, Matilda's father, the Mer King, realized his daughter was missing. He ordered a search, but the mermaids scoured the kingdom in vain. The truth that Matilda had ventured to the surface was known by a few, but hidden out of fear of the king's wrath. On land, Prince Ola carried Matilda, now locked in a bottle, to the king's chambers, where his father lay unconscious. Placing her on a table, he showed her to the sick king and renewed his vow to help her find her way home. Matilda nodded, her trust in the prince unshaken. Turning toward the king, she channeled her energy, releasing a radiant light that enveloped his frail body. "Leave us," Matilda instructed. "My magic is powerful, but it will take the night. By morning your father will be well. I must remain here to absorb the sickness from his veins." Ola, trusting her words, left the room. But at a corner of the room stood Mayday, who hid himself when Ola had walked into the king's room with the bottle. Ola was not aware that Maide had been in their father's chambers. Maide, who stood hidden behind a curtain, watched all that happened in the room that faithful evening. He could not believe that Ola had found a mermaid, despite his many nights of waiting by the riverside. He too was desperate to see what will happen by the next morning. The next morning, when Ola returned, he found his father, King Jerry, fully awake and healthy. Overcome with joy, he turned to Matilda, who smiled softly from her bottle. "Thank you, Matilda," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I have fulfilled my promise," Matilda replied. "Now you must fulfill yours. Take me back to my people. My father must be searching for me, and my kingdom will not rest until I am found." Ola nodded. "Tomorrow, we will return to the river. My entourage and I will search until we reunite you with your people." A deep bond of friendship formed between them, sealed by their mutual promises. As they spoke, Ola confided in Matilda about his brother's rivalry and the elders' plan to crown him king because he had healed the king. "I owe it all to you," he said, smiling at her. Matilda's heart fluttered at the way he looked at her. "I'm glad to have helped," she replied. "You deserve to rule. A king with a pure heart is what your people need." Ola begged Matilda to stay one more day, wanting the kingdom to hear of her bravery and sacrifice. He planned to announce the king's recovery and sing Matilda's praises to the entire kingdom.
And Matilda agreed. Little did they know, Maide had returned too. He peeped through the door and saw that his father was healed. Anger grew within him. All his plans had failed, and Ola was going to be crowned. Maide could not let this happen, and so he began putting together his sinister plan into motion, determined to ensure everything went his way. The next day, Prince Ola rushed to the king's court, his face alight with excitement. "The king has been cured," he announced to the chiefs and the gathered crowd. But his joy was met with stunned silence. In disbelief, the chiefs hurried to the king's chambers to confirm Ola's words. Moments later, they returned, their faces pale with fury. "The king is dead," one of them said coldly. Ola's heart sank. The truth hung in the air like a blade. "What have you done?" the chiefs roared. "Have you murdered the king with your so-called cure?" Stammering, Ola tried to speak, but before he could find his voice, his brother Maide stepped forward, his expression dark and accusatory. "I was there," Maide declared, "and I saw it all. Ola brought an evil creature into the palace, a mermaid. Together they performed dark magic to take the king's life." The room erupted in gasps. Maide's voice grew louder. "I overheard their secret plans. Ola promised to give the water people half the kingdom in exchange for their help. He killed the king for his own selfish gain." Ola stood frozen, his tears streaming as Maide's lies pierced him like daggers. His thoughts raced. "How did Maide know about Matilda? I told no one." His chest tightened. "Did I cause my father's death? Did Matilda deceive me?" The chiefs turned on Ola, their anger burning. "Is this true? Did you conspire with a mermaid to murder the king?" Ola opened his mouth but could not speak. His silence sealed his fate. "If you don't believe me," Maide said with a smirk, "send the guards to the king's chambers. You will find the creature there." The guards stormed into the king's room and found the bottle laying freely on the king's table. Inside it, a frightened mermaid stared back at them. The guards returned back to the king's court, confirming Maide's words. The chiefs erupted in rage, ordering Matilda's immediate arrest. As the guards approached her with spears, Matilda trembled. "Who are these humans? Why are they taking me?" She was dragged into the court, where the bottle was opened, spilling her onto the cold floor. Maide wasted no time in spurring out, "This creature used her dark magic to kill the king." Matilda's voice quivered as she pleaded, "Please, I only wanted to help." Her words fell on deaf ears. The chiefs passed swift judgment. Prince Ola was stripped of his title, and both he and Matilda were thrown into the dungeons. Matilda lay on the cold stone floor, her heart breaking. Ola betrayed me. Everything my father warned me about humans is true. She thought of her people, her father, her home beneath the waves. Without water, she could only survive 3 days. Her end was near. In a separate cell, Ola wept. How could this have happened? Did Matilda lie to me? Did I kill my own father? He kept asking himself. The next day, Midday ordered Matilda to be brought before him. His plan had worked perfectly. Ola was out of the picture, and now he could claim the power he craved. "Bring her here," he commanded. The guards flung Matilda to the ground at his feet. Without hesitation, Midday barked, "Torture her!" The guards fired sharp arrows that pierced Matilda's delicate skin. She bled, but her eyes held only sadness. Why are they doing this? She remembered her father's warnings, and bitter regret filled her heart. Midday, growing frustrated, shouted, "Cry, creature, cry!" But Matilda did not shed a tear. Mermaids, after all, do not cry from physical pain. Realizing this, Midday's lips curled into a sinister smile. "If pain won't make you cry, then perhaps sorrow will." He crouched beside her, his voice low and venomous. "Do you know how foolish your kind is? Always trusting humans, always falling into the same traps. My ancestors killed a mermaid queen, perhaps your mother, and now I will do the same to you." Matilda's heart shattered. "My mother?" Then he said coldly, "I killed the king while you were asleep that night, but you will be punished for it." Midday leaned closer, whispering cruelly, "And Ola, he planned all of this with me. He used you. You're nothing to him." The weight of Midday's words crushed her. Tears welled in her eyes, salty and shimmering. At last, they fell, staining her pale cheeks. Midday quickly caught the falling tears, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "I am rich!" he exclaimed. The ritual was conducted, and Matilda's tears transformed into gold and precious gems. Midday used his newfound wealth to bribe the chiefs, ensuring that the trial for his twin brother Ola was dismissed. Declared the capable new king of Odo, Midday seized power. Yet one of the 3 chiefs, Papa Dotun, remained skeptical. Unlike the others, he wasn't swayed by Midday's gifts and strongly opposed denying Ola a fair trial. Determined to act, he devised a plan. Meanwhile, Matilda was mistakenly thrown into the same dungeon as Ola, contrary to what King Midday had ordered. Matilda was stunned to find him there. Staring at him with anguish, she whispered, "Why? Why did you betray me?" Ola, his voice laden with grief, revealed the truth. He was innocent and had no hand in all that happened. He asked Matilda if truly she had killed the king with her magic, just like Midday had claimed. In that moment came a hint of clarity. Matilda recounted Midday's words to her, how he had murdered the king while she slept, absorbing the king's illness. "It was all Midday's doing," Matilda gasped. Slowly, Matilda understood the depth of Midday's treachery. The truth was evident. They had been set up. Despite their despair, Matilda saw a glimmer of hope. "If you can take me back to the river," she pleaded, "I will restore justice. But we must act quickly. I only have a day left to live. Please, Ola, my father will spare you if you help me return to the water." But Ola was powerless. They were trapped deep underground. Yet fate intervened when Chief Dotun, resolute in his quest to seek the truth, visited Ola in the dungeon. Hearing the truth about Midday's betrayal, Chief Dotun decided to help. He smuggled in a bottle at Ola's request. Matilda transformed into a shimmering golden liquid, flowing into the tiny bottle. Chief Dotun returned to Midday with a ruse. "Ola has taken his own life out of guilt for trusting the mermaid," he reported. "Allow me to dispose of his body at the river." Midday, smug and unsuspecting, agreed. At the riverbank, Chief Dotun dumped Ola's body at the shore. Once the coast was clear, Ola arose and poured the golden liquid into the water. Instantly, Matilda emerged, restored to her true form. "Wait for me here," she told him. "I will return." Determined to right the wrongs against her family, Matilda swam tirelessly night after night. She swarmed through the large river, unrelenting. She was finally able to navigate the vast waters and find her way back to her kingdom herself. Days later, she reached her father, the Mer King, and recounted the humans' betrayal, the murder of her mother, and Miday's heinous deeds. Enraged, the Mer King vowed vengeance. He was going to visit the village of Odo the next day. Matilda quickly swam back to the riverbank to warn Ola not to return back to the kingdom until 3 days passed. Ola heeded and hid himself away from the palace. The next morning, the Mer King emerged from the depths, leading his army toward the palace. Inside, Miday was plotting with the chiefs on how to double the village's taxes. Suddenly, the palace doors burst open and a powerful wave crashed through the hall. The Mer King, his voice booming like thunder, declared, "Your day of reckoning has come. For generations your kind has stolen from us and spilled innocent blood. Today you will pay." Before Miday could flee, the Mer King seized him, dragging him to the waters. Miday's screams echoed, but no one came to his aid. He vanished beneath the waves, taken captive by the Mer King, never to be seen again. With Miday gone, the curse was lifted and Miday paid for both his sin and that of his forefathers. Ola returned to the palace, where he was crowned king. He redistributed Miday's ill-gotten gold among the poor, restoring prosperity to Odo. The land flourished once more. Though peace was restored, the Mer King decreed that no mermaid could ever again venture to the surface, save for once every millennium. Matilda, granted one final visit, bid Ola farewell. Standing on the shore, they exchanged heartfelt gratitude. Though unspoken love lingered between them, they both knew their worlds could never unite. To this day, the mermaids remain beneath the waves, their presence on the surface a rare and magical occurrence. Only once in 1,000 years may a human encounter them. Should they prove worthy, they might earn the favor of these mysterious, beautiful guardians that rule over the sea. Thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Please leave a like, share, and comment your thoughts on this story. Until we meet again, stay blessed and I'll see you in my next story.